of all, Rachana ma'am, thank you so much for coming on our podcast, your own college's podcast. On
My
behalf
pleasure.
of Hindu College and TEDx Hindu, we are really very flattered to host you here, ma'am.
It's my pleasure, totally. It's my college.
We really hope we get some real good advices. Being a junior, I'm really feeling very proud to have a robust alumni like you in front of me.
Thank you so much for inviting me and having me over.
Sure.
Anything for the college.
Yeah, ma'am. On that part, ma'am, let's start from your journey itself. So, unlike other dancers, you started your journey more of after the age of 30,
Yeah.
which is like not something which is very usual. Usually, you see dancers and they start their journey and they have motivation from the childhood only and they
Yeah.
wish to start. So, I would really wish to know that, ma'am. What was the reason behind starting so?
So it's not that dance was an unfamiliar language for me.
Okay.
As a kid, I was learning. School plus privately as well, because my mother was very keen that I should learn Kathak. So one Guruji used to come home and I used to learn, but I was heavily into sports, which I carried through college. And I realized after 2-3 years of learning that this is not what was holding my interest, classical dance. This was when I was probably in class 3, 4, 5, or 5, 6, something like that. But school we had to take, so that was a compulsory thing. So I was learning throughout and I was pretty okay at it. It's just that I left formal training, any kind of formal training at a very early age. Much later, I happened to watch a recital by Aditi Mangaldas, who then became my guru. And I was so mesmerized by it that I really regretted that why I had left, and I went back to it. So that is what actually changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it like one performance or when you
Literally
used
one
to-
performance.
Just one performance.
One performance.
Like sort of love at
And
first
that
sight of
also,
thing for
absolutely,
you.
and that also I was very reluctant to go. My husband is a photographer.
Okay.
He was shooting for her.
Hmm.
So he forced me to come. And I said, I'm not really interested in classical, recitals. And he said, no, come, I'm not going to go alone. So I went. It was one of the premieres of one of her big productions. So I went, and I remember when the performance finished, I still remember it was in Kamani and everybody was clapping, and I was just so in a daze that I didn't even clap. It was that, and
You
then
were
I
so much mesmerized into
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So as an artist, ma'am, how do you connect with these things at a personal level? Because this is like being in this field. Suppose for me, this is podcast. So I think every artist is a very soft-natured person, as in they see everything from a very different perspective. So even your performances, when we see them, it's like they always have a personal essence attached to it.
Yeah.
So how do you do that as an artist?
See, I'll tell you the difference. The reason I didn't learn throughout as a child, therefore my learning started at a much proper formal professional learning started at a much later age, like we just talked about. See, what happens is when you start learning formally from the age of 5 or 6 and you learn throughout, then you are taken through logical stages of learning, and lot of initial learning and even later learning, you learn a lot on mythological episodes and pieces which are projected through dance, Radha, Krishna, बहुत सारे mythological characters और उन सब को लेकर सिखाया जाता है. So as a child, when you are learning throughout and you are growing with that whole process of Kathak, you also get the knowledge of a lot of mythological stories, and which you then use in your choreographies. But for me, that whole process was missing. I started at a later age, so my approach to it was very, was not as sequential as it would be if you learn throughout as a child. Three things I think play a role in it. One, I don't belong to a family which is very religious.
Okay.
In fact, in my family, we never, my father was an atheist, my mother was almost an atheist. So there were no temples and puja, and that has not been the culture which has been a part of my growing up years. So I was quite although little stories my mother used to tell me, Ram, Amar Chitra Katha or all that, but it wasn't a big part of our daily lives where वो कथा वाचन हो रहा है और वो सब हो रहा है. So my knowledge of mythology was not very strong. Second, my major learning has been with Aditya Mangaldas, whose view towards classical dance from the way she teaches and her approach is fairly contemporary. She herself is an atheist, which is not to say that she doesn't work with mythological stories, or she does, but how she portrays and what kind of importance she gives, I think is very different from the traditional Kathak pattern of ras and the stories. So what I was left with when I wanted to express myself was my own experiences, because my knowledge and khazana of mythological stories was very low. So when I wanted to express myself, I could only use stories which were my own experiences. Right? So, and also for me, Kathak, I arrived at dance after I had already been through 2 professions earlier, where every time I left because I felt that I was not getting a creative outlet to express myself. So I think I used dance, or I use dance for my creative expression, which is from my own experiences, expression of my own experiences, my own thoughts, my own stories, or what are my own journey. So I actually pick up things from what I have experienced rather than mythological stories to. So that is how I feel that I am, that's my approach to dance. So you can say that, well, it's a little different, but that is how it is, that I use dance only for my own personal expression.
So it's like this dance form itself is a religion for you, if I may.
Yeah, you can call that.
Okay.
You can say that it's a religion. I would say that it is a faith. I have enough faith in this dance form that it is giving me enough buoyant or very potent channel for me to express myself. And see, what is Kathak? Kathak is Katha kahe so Kathak. It is a storytelling tradition in the form of dance. That is what Kathak is. That's how the word came. In traditional times, where it originated in mandirs, where they would tell the stories of Radha, Krishna, Ram, Sita, and dance. So that is what. So I tell my stories. Yeah.
That's very wonderful to hear, ma'am. But also to this thing only, since you started on this so late, and we live in a society which is always there to question you, no matter what you do. So how was the criticism when you took that step?
Okay, yeah. So initially, see, nobody will criticize on your face.
Yeah,
People don't. Huh? But yeah, very close people like say, अच्छा तू अब कर रही है, कर पाएगी, इसमें तो बहुत मेहनत होती है, इतना नहीं. So all those questions from very close ones came, and a lot of people I could make out, they were not saying it, but on their faces I could make out that they would कि अच्छा it's a phase, थोड़ा शौक चढ़ गया है, सीख रही है, छोड़ देगी. But I continued, and in fact, soon after I started, I conceived my second daughter. So I had to take a break. So everybody thought कि अब बात खत्म हो गई. But I went back to it, and not just went back. I realized that because I was starting late, I had to make up for all those years that I had missed out. So I had to work doubly hard. I knew that I would have to do it. Which is when it came to a crossroads, because that time I was doing interior design. I had a full factory, a studio, a showroom, I had a full-fledged flourishing business. And it came to a crossroads where I had to decide this or that, because I realized that classical dance is like a tapasya. If you have to learn it, you have to completely get into it. You can't do ये भी कर लेते हैं, वो भी कर लेते हैं, वो भी कर लेते हैं, वो नहीं हो पाता है. Then, and especially when you are at the initial learning stages, which I considered myself to be. So eventually I closed my business. It took me about a year, because I had to wind up the projects. I had to, lot of other things, like but I did close my
So
business.
advertising and marketing stuff you were into? You're talking
So I
about
told
that?
you I went through 2 professions.
Yeah.
So this was my interior design phase.
Okay. Okay. So you had to close that.
I closed that finally,
Mm.
and that's when I decided to get. And I was then devoting my entire day to dance. So I would get up, do my riyaz, and fortunately Aditi Mangaldas, who's my guru, she agreed to take me on as a student. So I would go to her studio, and she had a full-fledged repertory because she was an actively performing artist with a troupe. So I would watch them rehearse and all of that. And hers was like a company. You go there at 10:30 and you're there till 5:30. So you're rehearsing, you're doing yoga, you're doing, talking about new productions. There were discussions. It's like full day work, like we come here to work. But I used to initially go just to learn. But I would ask her, can I just sit and watch? So I would sit and watch. And then I was lucky because I was a sports person. I was into gymnastics. That one of her contemporary pieces, one of the girls dancers got pregnant, and I stepped in after 2 years. So that's when this whole journey of performances started. And then slowly, she made us understudy, me and another girl. We were understudies, and then slowly I became a part of her troupe. Then I was dancing in the troupe. And I was lucky because it doesn't happen to everybody. I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So I got this opportunity that I was, after 3 or 4 years of learning, I was dancing with a troupe which was the best in the country. They were the best, it was considered one of the best troupes in the country. So I got that opportunity, and then I realized that I am standing and dancing with other dancers who may be younger to me, but are way, way experienced and professional. So if I have to, and on stage, you're not excluded. Audience doesn't say, कि अच्छा इसने तो 5 साल ही सीखा है, तो let her make mistake. It's not, you are at par with them. So I had to really push myself, and that really gave me the motivation and the energy to work hard. And I did work very hard because I had 2 kids, and which I had to manage. But they were quite. My husband was very, very supportive, so he was really stepping in.
So, ma'am, since you just told us about your such a illustrious story, I really would like to know what was your biggest downfall, sort of, because when you are in this creative niches, we assume that this is something that you're genuinely attached to. Just like you said, you left your business over there to get into the field of dance and finally just get dissolved into it. How was it like for you, your first downfall, or maybe a sad moment when you just couldn't gather yourself up and get to work?
I can't remember such a drastic moment. There were times when, because after working at Drishtikon, that is my guru's dance company, I joined, I think in 2003, 2004, and I was 3, and I was there till 2010 is when I left, and started my own company, and my own choreographies and things. There were times when you keep applying for shows and you don't get them. There are times when you see everybody is dancing and you are not getting a show. So those are things which kind of pull you down. But I don't remember any such moment where I said, "Oh God, what has happened now? I just can't." How I mean, it took me a while to gather myself, and ऐसा नहीं हुआ है. ऐसा अभी तक तो नहीं हुआ है, touch wood. But there were times when I was feeling low, when I was feeling down and out. First time when I applied for ICCR and I did not get empaneled, I was feeling very low. 2-3 of us applied together. I didn't get empaneled, the others did. I felt very low. But then there were some highs also when you get good shows and you suddenly. And yes, like your previous question, that what was the criticism? It wasn't just criticism. Like I said, nobody really criticizes you on your face. But general behavior, I knew that people were not accepting me as a part of the fraternity because one, I was not from Kathak Kendra. Kathak Kendra is the National Institute of Kathak. So most of the people who are today performing and are there, most of them are products of Kathak Kendra. So that is like a hub. I was not from there. I was from outside. I was a little, started learning much later. So everybody questioned my ability and my talent. ये क्या करेगी. It is only after I started presenting my own choreographies that my credibility in the industry became a little more strong. But before that, I could, or maybe it was in my head, but I used to think that I was being questioned by most of the fraternity people कि ये यहाँ क्या कर रही है, or how come she is dancing in Drishtikon, because there were much better dancers than me who were dying to get into Drishtikon. Drishtikon is my, because I told you it was one of the best repertories in the country. So people used to think कि you know अभी तो सीखना शुरू किया and she's dancing in Drishtikon. But so there were those kind of times, but ठीक है, I had to keep telling myself that you know I can't let all this pull me down. I can't let all this pull me down. I have to. So.
Yeah. Also, I'm talking about one of your own performances only, Trishanku. There's this person attached, essence attached to this, because this was somehow related to the short story your mother had written. So, what was the correlation between this and what was the main purpose of creating this choreography?
See, when you create a choreography, it starts with something in your mind, some idea. So the idea that was in my mind was that, again, from my own experiences, because I was that was the time I was doing. I had started looking after Hans after my father passed away. Hans, you know, is a Hindi literary magazine, which is where you're sitting, and it is the largest Hindi literary magazine. So it was a very big thing. So when my father passed away, I am the only child. I had to step in to look after it, the running of it. I'm not the editor. Somebody else is the editor. And I live in Gurgaon. This is in Daryaganj. This is 35 kilometers away. So I have an institute in Gurgaon where I'm teaching. There are about over 60 students. So at that point in time, I was taking all the classes myself. Now I've had to get more people in the faculty because I'm spending time here as well. So I was working on my own choreographies, on my own dance, on my own practice, because that is something I can't let go. I was also taking classes. I was coming here, and there was a constant struggle of balancing. Like we all do, कि कैसे you know ये भी कर ले वो भी कर ले, कैसे time को balance करें, कैसे किसको balance करें. I've seen that in Indian mentality, सब कुछ को किसी तरह fit कर देना है, जुगाड़. You know, that is a very so it all started with that thought कि what is the balance point in everybody's life. What is a balance point? My balance point may be different from yours. It can't be a common balance point for me. And what are the balance we are talking about? Balance is when you're trying to put two contrasts, two opposing things. What is the point that they meet for you? Like, for example, light and dark. What is the balance point where light and dark meets for you? It may be different for me. So that is how, how are we figuring out our balance points between two opposites? That's how it started. So light, dark, quiet, noisy, you know, different day, night, all that. And then old, new. So when I was talking about old, new, what flashed into my mind was old generation, old ideas, new ideas. Old generation, new generation. And then it said, oh, Trishanku. Trishanku as a mythological concept is that hanging in the air. वो ना पाताल में था ना वो आसमान में था, वो बीच में लटका हुआ था. So my mother named it because she is talking about the ideology, the ideas of two generations and how they collide. Or the older generation which is trying to be modern, but at some point then it again keeps becoming traditional, so it confuses the new generation. You know, that is the story, and that story was on me. It was a real thing that happened to me. So it's in any case one of my favorite stories. So then this idea of old generation and new generation, and how the middle generation is the one which is hanging in the middle. वो कभी इधर खींचती है, कभी उधर खींचती है. Like your parents, you know, your father, he must, or mother, must just be, oh, my son, I'm very liberal. You know, they all want to believe they are very liberal in their heads. So I give, like my mother used to proudly say, I give, मैं तो बहुत छूट देती हूँ, मैं तो इसको जो करना है ये वो. But when I actually got into an affair, she said, ये कुछ ज़्यादा हो रहा है, तुम पढ़ाई ये वो. You know, that's when you're pulling.
Yeah.
So that thing is tug of war is constantly going in your head in the middle generation. So this was a story actually about the middle generation and how it keeps getting torn between the two.
Okay.
So that was Rishabh. So that's how it came about.
That's such a wonderful concept, man. And with that, moving towards the end of this conversation, since Hindu College is marking its 125th anniversary, so on behalf of that only, having such a great alumni like you in front of me, on behalf of all the Hindu College students, especially the dance ops that we have. If you don't know the name, it's Aram, it's Srijya. So we have these dance ops, and to all the students and also these dance op students that we have, what would be your piece of advice to them?
My advice to them would be that one, if you are part of that dance society, which means that you are a dancer or you are at least interested in dance, do not give it up. If it's a talent, do not give it up. I really regret giving it up when I gave it up. It's a talent that doesn't come so easy. So if you have it, then you are blessed. And if you're blessed, then give it the due respect and pursue it, because we get so drawn into this, our working lives and married lives and this and that we just become like any other regular human being, and what was special about us, that gets left behind. So we become ordinary people. We think, I'm so busy, I'm working, and I become, marketing head, and I become vice president. I see people like that, and we feel so proud about it. I've really worked hard to reach this place, and my kids are doing so well. And it's fine. Everybody is. If you are in the corporate world, and if you are reasonably intelligent, you will reach vice president in marketing at some point in your life. You will, 90%. So what is so special about you? But if you have a talent, that is special about you. So in all this thing, we leave the special things behind to become these great ordinary people. I can't understand that.
Great ordinary people. That's such a good phrase.
Yeah, that we think, oh wow, we have achieved so much. अगर हम ब्यूरोक्रेट हैं तो हम सेक्रेटरी बन गए, तो भाई बनोगे ही, ब्यूरोक्रेट हो तो कभी सेक्रेटरी बनोगे. Of course you have worked hard. What I mean is, I don't want to demean any profession, and I don't want to demean anybody. I have huge respect for people who work. That's it. I have huge respect for people who are working against all odds and have done well in their fields, which is great. But in the process, if you have left behind something which was exclusive to you, then that is sad. So I feel do not leave it, because वो बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. और खासकर when we get caught up in this big rat race, then you need some kind of a mental stability, and the way any kind of pursuing any kind of art form, or be it pottery, painting, anything, cooking, anything that's your passion, it really gives you that balance in your head. So that would be my advice to you.
All the college folks?
All the college folks, especially people who are in various societies, be it dance, theatre, कि talent है तो उसको बर्बाद मत करो. उसको बर्बाद नहीं करते. We take it for granted. It's not that we tend to take it for granted. हाँ ठीक है तो कर रहे हैं.
Like, were you very serious back then in your college?
Not at all.
With this stuff? So like more with academics?
No. I was. So coming to my college story, it was the best 3 years of my life. Best 3 years. The 3 years that I really grew up, the 3 years that I really in my head and otherwise became an independent person. Because I came from a Christian school, all girls school, everything. And in fact my mother pushed me. She said, she was teaching in Miranda. I could have gone to Miranda, but she said no. You come from and you studied in all girls school, you go to another all girls college. No, you need to know what life is. You need to meet other people. You need to meet people and interact with people of opposite sex. So she pushed me, and I got admission in Hindu. I got into Hindu. I was very good in academics. I was a merit lister, although my classes बहुत कम attend करती थी, पर मैं करती थी. I was actually fairly regular student, but I was into sports. मैं स्कूल से खेलती हुई, आई यूज्ड टू प्ले फॉर माई स्कूल. सो व्हेन आई केम इनटू कॉलेज आई सॉ कि यहाँ कोई स्पोर्ट्स ही नहीं है गर्ल्स के लिए. And there were boys playing, and I said, I also want to play basketball. I used to play basketball, and they said, "Ki you're very heavy." Bus I to then started, going class to class, and getting students together. Whoever wants to play basketball, I started putting up notices. Tried to put a team together. Tried to get a couple of students, good basketball players, migrated from IP. उसके लिए मैंने बड़े झगड़े किए, बहुत झगड़ा किया, बहुत तमाशा किया कॉलेज में. But I said I have to. Then they won't give me. Your Mr. Datta's son, he knows. That time it was his father. So they won't give us funds because there were no funds. There were no girls' teams, so funds कहाँ से आएंगे? So they said, "No, but there are no funds." I said, "Okay, how can we no funds? We can't give you a coach." So anyway, that we agreed. The boys' captain will coach you. So we said, "Okay." So we will, we started. I put a team together, and by the end of first year, we were going for tournaments. We fought and we got our kits, we got the coach, we started getting funds to, if we were traveling out, not out of Delhi, but Delhi में जब हम लोग tournaments वगैरह के लिए जाते थे, खाने का, refreshments, conveyance and all of that. So वो करते then we were going for athletics, and second year, third year तक तो आते काफ़ी ठीक ठाक हो गई थी team, we were winning tournaments. And but that is something I started, and I really had to. First year I really had to fight for it. Really had to fight, and with Mr. Datta, with the principal, Mr. Bhatia, that time, सबके साथ मैंने झगड़े किए. Then I got a college color for that.
College color?
Yeah.
What's college color?
College color is given to someone who has done something very special. So it was awarded to me. And Chetan Chauhan was the chief guest, and he had given. So you get this college emblem, blazer के कपड़े का college emblem होता है, which you get. Like a college color. So I was awarded that college color for starting women's sports in Hindu college. But that I must say that I did it single-handedly. I did not get much support from anybody. In fact, I don't want to name, but I was also told by one of the educated members that आप लोग को खेल के क्या करना, आपको तो बाद में किचन में ही बैठना है. I did not name. Yeah. I will not name. But I was shocked, and I questioned कि that was the only time. But otherwise, once it all got going, then we got the support, we got funds, we got everything, and the boys' team was wonderful. They really coached us well. They really, took care of all of us. They would go with us. One or two boys would always go if we were going for tournaments. तो वो उन्होंने हम लोगों का बहुत ख्याल रखा. So, but college, whether it was my faculty, Dr. Khera and Mr. Srivastava, who was also the principal later, one of the best professors I've ever come across. The whole culture of Hindu college was something which was absolutely amazing. I don't know how it is now, but it was absolutely amazing. I don't think that kind of culture you found in any other college, even at that point in time. It was like whoever wanted to have, meet and have open discussions. It was such an open environment. Would be at Hindu college cafe. Cafe.
Okay, that was very wonderful to hear, ma'am.
Yeah.
I hope you can figure out the vibe when you come on the 20th.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we all are also looking forward to host you, ma'am. And with that was all from my side and Hindu college's side. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation.
I loved it. I can talk non-stop about college.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was great.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
My pleasure, and all the best to all the students, to all of you. And hope you all also remember college as fondly as we all do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of OSA people who swear by it, and one of them. And I was just lucky that I had the opportunity to study in Hindu.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Pleasure.